This week on The Breakdown, we talk to Ian Foster and look back on an up-and-down All Blacks campaign this season. Waikato and Taranaki, they take out the NPC titles. And once again, here on The Breakdown, we hand out our Breakdown Awards for 2021. Kia ora koutou katoa, hello and welcome to The Breakdown. You've made it. This is the final breakdown of the year, episode 41. The season, it is done and dusted. Another difficult weekend for our national sides, but they were champions, Taranaki, as well as, who was the other one? It's come on, straight off the top of my head. Taranaki and Waikato won the other one. Look at that. He won't take that nicely. Well, Mills Molina, Sir John Kerwin as well. I tell you what, you see already, I've forgotten about the rugby season. It's behind me. We're going to move through over the next 50-odd minutes and talk to you about who were the successful candidates for a number of our awards. But first and foremost, how's the Mo going?
The Mo?
The Love Boat.
Hey, soon we'll be there. That put a smile on our face, didn't it? There you go. Awesome November.
Yeah. Well, we weren't smiling so much yesterday, JK. It was another tough weekend for the All Blacks. It's going to be a long flight home, but in the end, for the second week in a row, we were just beaten by a better side.
Yeah, France were outstanding. I thought, actually I enjoyed, over the last 2 weeks, I didn't enjoy the results, but actually the rugby was really good. That French side was pretty special. And I know that the All Blacks have been talking about fatigue, Mills, but they did look fatigued, to be fair.
Yeah, they looked tired, and man, that was an impressive French side. And when you think about sort of how many test matches they've played, they are going to be a threat big time. But I loved how they came back. You're right, they did look very tired, but they still showed a little bit of fight. Did the All Blacks to come back and be contestable.
Two amazing crowds, though, for both the All Blacks and the Black Ferns. Huge events. Obviously looking forward to what's going to be a huge Rugby World Cup in 2023 for the All Blacks, the Black Ferns back here in New Zealand. Of course, it has been a big campaign for the All Blacks in 2021. I had the opportunity this morning to catch up with Ian Foster before he returns home. Well, after another difficult weekend for the All Blacks, it's great to have on The Breakdown for the last time on 2021. Ian Foster, the All Black coach, joins us. And Fozzie, look, it's been a difficult last 2 weekends. I know you're going to go through a thorough review of this tour and where this team is at right now, but just the last 2 weekends, can you run us through, I suppose, how you've felt about the performances of the team?
Yeah, oh, thanks, Goldie. It's It's been disappointed, and we kind of know the reaction of our fans and everyone about when we don't get a win. But I think in both games we really struggled to get going in the first half. I think if you looked at last night, we enabled a French team to get a lot of early momentum against us. It was an amazing environment. Crowd got right behind them and very passionate, and became hard to handle after that for a while. But the positive thing about last night is that we sort of came right back into it, and I thought in that third quarter we really played the way that we really wanted to play against them, and we imposed ourselves with our ball carry, particularly up the middle, and created some opportunities, but just weren't quite good enough in the end to nut that away. So we've got two teams that have been waiting for us, and it's probably at the end of our season, and they were fresh and had really targeted that game and just showed that they are good quality teams, and we're going to have to be at our best to beat them.
You talk about that. How much of it do you think is timing and concerning teams going into these end-of-year tour games? The fact we've seen that England have played well, Wales have played well, Ireland have played well, and of course, the French. So do you think the balance of power is shifted, or is this just how these games can happen in the course of a 12-month period?
Oh, look, I reckon it's kind of hard. 2021 is going to be a tough year to get a measure of in many ways. Some teams have played not enough rugby, and a lot of England and Ireland and France haven't really played anything in that July window. Or France played Australia, but they left a lot of their players behind. And then you've got the Southern Hemisphere teams that have probably ended up playing too much rugby in this COVID and quarantine world. And, if you look at it, Argentina really struggled this year with the amount of travel they had. I think South Africa ended up losing 5 tests, Australia lost 7 tests, and we ended up losing 3 tests out of 15. So it's, look, I don't believe it's all doom and gloom. I think it's, I think I'm actually really proud of what this group's done on this tour. It's been an absolutely unique time, having 3 months largely hotel-based. We've had a larger squad. We've ended up having to rotate our squad more, I think, just for the health of the group. And short term, that probably hurt a bit. Long term, I think it's going to build us some really good depth and options. But clearly, I think the Northern Hemisphere teams in this particular window in 2021 were a lot fresher than the Southern Hemisphere teams.
Would you say that this tour has been a real eye-opening experience for a number of players?
Oh, absolutely. I think, it's been 3 years since we've been up north as an All Black team, and a number of players haven't been up here. And when you hit an Irish team and a French team at the tail end of your season, and and they really were up for the game and really imposed themselves on us, and we have learnt some lessons from that. There's no doubt about that. But again, I think in both those games, whilst the score didn't suit us, we did create enough opportunity, particularly last night, to come right back into that game. And it like at 27-25, when we chipped into their dead ball area and let them run out, and then all of a sudden it's a yellow card the other end. It shows you the margins, and we've just got to get a little bit better at those margins. But overall, I think we haven't become a bad rugby team overnight, but we've had a massively successful year in the first part of it, and probably just run out of steam a little bit in the last 2.
So from here, what does the review process look for you and the group?
Oh, we'll go through, we've got our own review system that we'll do. We'll probably do a little bit of that when we're in quarantine, and, with the players, and then there's the more sort of, in-depth sort of New Zealand rugby one. So there'll be lots of conversations about it, but that's all standard practice. And look, I get the fact that people are upset that we lost 2 games, and it's hard to explain the circumstances that we've been in. And I don't want to be coming across as if we're given excuses for that, but this has been a remarkably difficult year in many ways, and having 12, 13 weeks on the road in hotels and quarantines. We've had 2 lots of 5 consecutive test matches in a row, and we've really run out of steam in the last 2. So, I think there are some massive positives there. There's some frustrating negatives, and we've got to look at why particularly we didn't start those last 2 tests well in those first 20 minutes, because we allowed both teams to dictate to us, and it made it really hard to wrestle momentum back.
There are always things, right, that players, coaches, management teams, there are always things that you would do differently when you go into the following season. Do you feel that's well and truly the case for you as a group?
Oh, there's no doubt about that. I think it's, we've had, we've had a long season. We've learned a lot about ourselves. We've been able to grow, I think, a broader base of players than perhaps we would normally be able to do in a standard All Black season. I think that's a positive. But we've also learned some areas that we did get exposed to. And so, we're pretty happy. When I say happy, we felt in the Rugby Championship we were really trending in the right direction. We did well against Australia, Argentina. We had a solid win against South Africa, or a tight struggle against those 2, which went either way. And then we've come up here and really, I think, felt pressured by the environments and potentially the way that both Ireland and France held the ball against us for long periods and just made us make a lot of tackles early. And that's probably one of the biggest learning for us, is how can we actually get our hands on the ball a little bit earlier and start imposing ourselves, because when we do, we showed that we can actually really take it to them. So good lessons, good experiences for a number of people who haven't been up here and felt that and experienced that. And going into the next 2 years, hopefully we can get more of these sort of games, and because we've just sort of had a diet of Australia and Argentina before this.
Look, as you've said, there's such a passionate fan base here in New Zealand and across the globe in regards to the All Blacks. A lot of noise right now. I mean, how are you going to deal with that noise, surrounding the coaching of the All Blacks?
Oh, the same way I always deal about it. I've got a job to do. I'm very passionate about what I do with this group. I've got a lot of belief in what we've achieved this year, and I'm not going to be swayed off task by a couple of performances at the end of a year where we've won 80% of our tests and lost the last two, and they're amazingly good lessons for us. We don't want to receive those sort of lessons, but and my job is to make sure we decipher that and pull it apart and figure out how we can learn from that to go forward. But you've got to go through some of these sort of lessons sometimes as an All Black team. It's not like this is a fully established with a whole, with experience right across the board. We're growing some depth and combinations in this group right now. And with that's come a couple of weeks of a couple of painful lessons. So the key is not to run away from that or hide. It's to embrace it and say, well, it is what it is. We've got a couple of smacks and we've got to make sure we learn some lessons from that. And that's my job to lead that.
Fozzie, look, I'm appreciative of you coming on the show because, like you say, it is not easy, but you've always fronted up. When will you confirm? Obviously, you've been confirmed through to the 2023 Rugby World Cup. Is that the same for all of your team, your coaching team, and your management team going through to the next stage of I suppose, this tenure?
Yeah, at this stage, that's largely in place. I don't think it's 100% confirmed yet, but they're there. But it's like everything, Goldie. Look, I know everyone bays for blood at times like this, and it's the nature of the job. But our goal is to make sure that we've got the right plan going forward to do well in the World Cup. But it's like with the All Blacks, it's not just about winning the World Cup. And in fact, a lot of the criticism coming now is based on you lose a couple of tests and people start to panic a little bit and start to feel that the team's losing the way. But if I look at the bigger picture and think, well, we've won a lot of tests this year, we're developing a number of players, we're changing a few things on the park, we've been living in a hotel together for 3 months, then I think that we're going to use the base of what we've achieved this year from a team culture and environment, I think, to really push through and do well. But for us as an All Black coach, I know I'm always accountable, but it's every test's important. So it's not just about building for the World Cup; it's about getting next year right.
Fozzie, thanks for your honesty. Thanks for being available, and we look forward to seeing what version of the All Blacks we see in 2022. You will have taken the learnings out of what has been a challenging year. I know it won't be a comfortable off-season because I know the way that you operate, but mate, enjoy yourself, get some summertime, and we look forward to catching up with you in 2022. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Goldie. Cheers.
An element of perspective from Ian Foster and what they've experienced over the last 3 or 4 months in the All Blacks. To John Kerwin-Mills, we look at this, and it's not our job to decide who the All Black coaches. New Zealand Rugby decided that. They contracted him through to the next Rugby World Cup. There are other things they need to confirm, as Fozzie has talked about. So, if you're in a position where you were reviewing the performance of the All Blacks, where are the question marks right now?
So what I tried to do is take the emotion out. I totally agree with you. I mean, Fozzie's been confirmed 3 months ago. Get over it. We need to now start saying, what do we need to look at? So the positives. We had the best record for the Southern Hemisphere teams during this COVID time. Everyone was fatigued. South Africa lost 5 times. Australia lost 7 times. Argentina lost 9 times.
Well, they won once.
Positive. We also know, and this is just being really cold about, we also know that when the Northern Hemisphere come here in July, we kick their butts, right? So that's just happened. So that's all cool. But the reality for me is this. Our attack is predictable, and I think we need to show some innovation and change there. We don't do well when the fast line speed is against us, right? And I think we need to look at our individual skills under pressure. The kicking game. I think we got our kicking game wrong. I think Geordie Barrett's had a standout season. He's probably our number 15. But I think our counter-attack and our kicking game, we need to take a real big, strong review at. So who's that? That's probably Stormy, right? And Brad Moore. Ian Foster's going to have to come home and say, this is not acceptable, this is what we've learnt, this is what we need to do. Skills under pressure, I mentioned that. And I've got a bit of a left field one. I think the psychology of what we're talking about. What is Gilbert and Oka doing with the team? We spoke about fatigue so many times over the last 3 weeks, we probably talked ourselves into fatigue. And I'm studying, a thing called acceptance commitment
we're tired,
therapy.
let's be fair.
Yeah, that's true. Everyone's tired. So, but acceptance sort of commitment therapy is where you go, I'm tired. Oh, yeah, I'm tired. We don't know how we're going to get through it. So if they were fatigued, should we have flown Aaron Smith over? Should we just rested the Whitelock? Sam, just rest them. Or whoever's tired, just play the kids. Because if you lose on weekend, Mills, and you've got some of the young fellas out there starting, it might not have hurt as much.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that will be perhaps what they look at, the fact that you put these young guys out there. There's no doubt they were tired. And I kind of asked that in the last couple of weeks because this is something new. This is new territory. And if you go back and then think about it in terms of the Rugby World Cup, that's 7 weeks. These guys were away a lot longer, but they probably had an opportunity there to go, okay, for the last 7 weeks of this tour, how are we going to manage these players? Is it getting the young guys out there? Is it establishing the guys that are in really good nick? And probably the one guy that you take away from there is Artie Savia because he finished this whole season on a massive high. So what did they do in terms of that to make sure guys were motivated and got out there? Because it was kind of reflected, what happened off the field, which I'm unsure so that kind of reflected their performance. They lacked a bit of energy, which is understandable through being tired, but they lacked certainty. So they were unsure about sort of what they were going to do. And that probably comes back to your point. Our biggest strength has always been our attack. We've now gone in there and it almost looked like we're playing a defensive role, kick to them and see what they sort of do and then sort of try and react off them, which is probably coming back to what you're saying. Who are the attack coaches and what do we need to do to make sure we're more innovative?
But when you're playing in a team that lacks experience, and this team lacked experience, you think about the number of guys that had low numbers of test matches to be put under the sort of pressure they were put under for these 2 test matches in particular. South Africa, it was a coin toss. We're leading at half-time against Ireland, and then we almost get in front or get close to getting in front in the last test match against France. We are right there. How much of this is the fact that there are guys that you talked about, JK, who will come out of this tour with the necessary experience for it next season? I look at this group and there's guys that you talk about adversity they had to go through to get success. Richie McCaw had to go through adversity. Ma Nonu had to go through adversity. Conrad Smith, Ben Smith, all of these guys, Dan Carter, they went through adversity. This is the sort of tour for me. Since when did the All Blacks supposed to win every test match? Are we not allowed the other teams in the world to get better and improve? And these 2 teams are now 2 years out. They've got to time their run, Ireland, France, for 2 years' time. I just think we've got to be very, very careful. The perspective on this is the fact that we got beaten well and truly. There are things that we'll have to do better.
Yeah, and I totally agree with you. So if you just write down the ledger, and on the left-hand side, I've got the new players. Lots of great new players have come through. I reckon that was one of the most courageous defensive performances I've ever seen the All Blacks have against Ireland. But my biggest question mark that I want the coaching staff to ask them is, if I said to you, what are you worried about before the tour for our attack, Mills? You would have said, fast line speed, we're not dealing with it, right? And when we came away from the last World Cup, we said, we're really physical. We've got teams from the Northern Hemisphere really physical. We need to match that. I disagree. We don't need to match that. We actually need to come up with an All Black game plan that diffuses that. And so these are some of the big questions. I'm not questioning the character. I'm not questioning the coaching staff. That's Ian Foster's job. What I'm saying is there is a couple of things that are starting to repeat that we need to look in the mirror and say, maybe tactically and technically, we just need to change moving forward. And if we lose 2 test matches and we come out next year and we just grow to the World Cup, win the World Cup, we go, how good were those learnings? But I do want to see some improvements on those learnings.
Mills, though, but how much then? We talk so much about the coaches. They're the target, particularly when teams don't win. How much of that responsibility falls with the players? Because I did it, and when I was playing, you're the one that's out there. You're the one that has to perform. If you don't believe in the game plan, or you're not clear on the game plan, or the fact that you don't feel as though you're at a level where you can execute that, who has to ask those questions? Who has to go, you know what, I'm not sure we can do that. Is it time for us to make a change? Have they got that level of experience?
Well, that's the thing. I mean, they often talk about culture and what culture looks like, and you've got to have the ability to be able to have a core group of guys, the leadership group. This is what they're made there for, to come collectively and take those to the coaches. But then it's got to be two-way. The coaches have got to be open to those ideas and not sit there and go, well, actually, and argue your point. But at the end of the day, they've got to come away and, you know, agree to disagree, but all be on the same page. And so it does take a good group of guys. We've got a lot of experience here, guys that have been to, you know, multiple Rugby World Cups, guys that have been there and won championships in Super Rugby. They've got to go to the coaches if they're not happy, or if they don't think that this sort of game plan is actually working, and talk to them about it and find a way to be able to nullify that. The disappointing part is, you talk about the line speed. They were showing that against Italy. I know there was a different team the following week, but they had all the pictures to say we struggle against line speed from the outside in. Okay, so what then do we need to do to make sure to try and counter-attack that? And they just didn't come up with ideas. The last week against the French, a little bit different. They were up and back, you know, sort of, yeah, they did all sorts of things. But we didn't seem to adapt the following week after being clearly shown pictures. I can accept the fact if it wasn't shown the week before, but we were in 2 weeks in a row.
JK, we love a review. In this country, gosh, we do some reviews. You name it, we'll review it. We'll put together committees. We'll put, you know, anyone who wants to get involved. Okay, let's get some different points of view. Do you feel as though the All Blacks may benefit from that, though, given someone else to come and have a discussion with them, or do you think within that group, the experience they have, they can be, I suppose, clear enough in their own minds about challenging themselves, or would some assistance? And we know we talk about the master, the likes of a Wayne Smith coming in and going, you know, where have you advanced? Where have you made changes? Not necessarily to bring down, but to maybe open their eyes to some different propositions?
I think that is definitely Ian Foster's role. He needs to, if that's what he wants, he needs to have the courage to call a group of people to get some different thinking if he wants. Because what he's not going to want to do is look back in 2 years' time if the World Cup doesn't go successful and go, wow, I wish I had those conversations. So, you know, we talk about looking in the mirror a lot, people at home, and for a rugby player, looking in the mirror is first tell yourself the truth. And if you can tell yourself the truth, then I can turn and tell Mills the truth. And we need to keep those traditions. So, you know, Fozzie will be hurting. He needs to come home and he needs to ask himself first the hard questions, and then he needs to ask his coaching staff the hard question, and the leadership group, Mills. But then if he feels that he needs some outside guidance in his next formation, you know, not changing staff or anything, but, yeah, I'm going to get some different ideas. Have a camp, or whatever, a few wines, and, you know, get your new plan in place.
So
agree to
trying to
it,
get an
move on.
invitation. Is that how you're trying to get an invitation?
I can bring the wine.
You can bring the wine. That's how you get an invitation right there.
Sometimes a different perspective is always can be beneficial. We set in 2000, after 2011, we brought Wayne Bennett in, and he was the most ruthless guy out. He basically gave it to the coaches. They grumbled and they're like, nah, he doesn't know what he's talking about. But they went away and actually thought about what he said. So it's not necessarily to run the team down what they're doing. It's just to give you a perspective about what other people are thinking. But again, that comes down to Fozzie, and at the end of the day, we're not saying, you know, perhaps he's already got that in his mind. He's got a bit of time now to think about how that looks, to think about the game plan and what the rest of his management look like, and he's got the whole of Super Rugby to say, well, okay, maybe, you know, who are the core players I need to take through, you know, right through to the next couple of years, because this is important now. Core
players is a great way to turn to some of the players who did perform on the weekend, and our Health Span Performer of the Week, as voted by you, and the top three. Rieko Ioane was number one. Number two was Ardie Savea, again amongst the top three, and Quinn Tupaia in his biggest test match to date was impressive. JK, you talked about the development of Rieko Ioane in the 13 jersey for the All Blacks. Was this his strongest and most consistent performance?
Yes, I think from a complete point of view, I thought his defence lines were a lot better. You didn't see him noticeably jumping out of line. Mills, they did have to defend a lot. He was up against a very, very good backline. I mean, I don't know about you, but I used to hate playing the French because they're so good. Did this stuff on attack. And like I said, I think he can be a world-class centre because of that, Mills. He's got that pace. But it's actually the little things on defence that are hard to learn. But I think it was a real big pass mark for me. I think Artie was probably the player of the evening, but the yellow card probably didn't help.
Artie was great, right? Another strong performance. His All Black captaincy seems to have given him the confidence to have an impact on every game he plays in. And for me, at number 8, has he established himself? Is that his position going forward, Mills?
Well, the way he's been playing, you'd have to say, it absolutely is. But they need to go and we talk about talking to core guys. They need to go and talk to this guy about sort of how he prepared throughout this 15 weeks, or in particular this last 3 or so weeks. And I know he didn't play against Italy and he didn't play against USA. But, man, the way he finished and how we sort of become, he is an absolute leader. And it was a beast because he had a great Super Rugby campaign as well. So the guy managed the season really well, albeit he had a bit of injury during Super Rugby.
The midfield has been a difficult proposition for the All Blacks all year. Anton Leonard-Brown had picked up some niggles, but Quinta Paia, after not being part of the initial All Black squad, the moment he stepped foot inside that team, JK, it looks as though he's proven he's well and truly good enough to have more opportunities in the black jersey.
Well, you talk about adversity. I mean, he couldn't make the Waikato side. You know, he got dropped a couple of times, so he's been through a bit of adversity. But I really liked him. I think, I think there's enough in him to see him do this sort of stuff. What I want him to be able, the confidence to do, is just be himself, all right? So I think one of the things that happened to Ngani Lomapi, right, was he was trying to be something, or the coaches wanted him to start kicking and stuff, you know. It took Ma probably 7 or 8 years to develop right through his game. But if Mark couldn't pass early in his career, Mills, he just tucked it and got you over the advantage line. Then his passing got better. He brought a kicking game to himself later. But he did this constantly. He ran over people. And I'd love for Quinton to say, this is my X factor. Yeah. I'm going to be the guy that's going to hit inside shoulders. You're not going to be able to tackle me, right? And I'm going to be that. I think Ngani probably felt a bit of pressure to be, I've got to be a kicker as well. I've got to do this and that. Where I reckon his strengths was, get over the advantage line. I
do think that's our most confused area right now. The number of players, and remembering Jack Goodhue picks up a season-end injury for the Crusaders, I think it's an area, Mills, that we'll have to spend some time through Super Rugby next year, getting our head around what is the role of that midfield for the All Blacks. Yeah,
and the thing is, you talk about Tupai. I mean, I had some reservations. I thought he made a lot of mistakes during, Super Rugby, and that's why he wasn't getting picked. But he is a guy that just went in there and he did that. He used his strengths. Don't neglect your strengths. That's one of the biggest things, is the fact that you go there and you learn new skills like Ma'a did, but don't neglect the stuff that sort of put you there. And he is learning big time. And that environment's done has made him a lot better player, and I think he's going to be great next year, and perhaps mould into that sort of physical role, but develop other parts of his game.
And we'll talk about some of the other breakout players of the season a little bit later on the show. Look, it was a difficult night for the All Blacks, another difficult night for the Black Ferns as well, going down to France once again. But it was great to get behind the scenes through the course of this tour with Chelsea Alley.
Kia ora guys, back in the studio. This is some special content coming to you from the middle of the field after our final game here in France. Obviously we went down again, but man, I'm pretty proud of us. We showed a lot of heart. I'll take you around the stadium, see some fans and see what some of the girls have to say. Guys, that's me signing out from our Black Ferns tour. Thank you all for following us and supporting us from home. It has been a really tough tour, but like we've all said, lots of lessons. We've learnt a lot, and stick with us. We're going to be back stronger next year, get some more tests under our belt and come out fighting. We've still got a lot of mana in this jersey, and we'll keep fighting for it. So thanks for following us, and yeah, see you guys soon. Back to you in the studio, guys.
Thanks very much, Chelsea. Look, it's been a really difficult 4 weeks for them. 6 weeks they've been together, trying to prepare themselves for these test matches after not playing for 2 years. I was interested, though, in this quote from Coach Glenmore, and significant for me when he talks about, first and foremost, our conditioning has to be at the front of our mind. Some of that's due to what we experienced at home because of COVID. Obviously, there were restrictions on being able to get together in Auckland and train. They'll do a lot of work through the summer to ensure we'll be in peak condition for next year. This is probably the most disappointing thing for me to read, is the fact the one thing I always believed as a player, as an athlete, JK, is you could control your conditioning to get yourself fit enough to compete, and then you worked on your game. Does it make it even more difficult now for a World Cup next year when their focus now is pure and simply to start with getting fit?
Look, I think it's a given, Goldie. I think you're right. I think the female game needs to go professional. It's doing that now, Super Rugby. There is no excuse for not being fit enough. That wasn't my worry. My worry was, you just saw a clip there. I thought defensively they were at 6 and 7s at times. The other thing I worried about was actually the athlete I thought was better over there. Not the conditioning, the athlete looked different. And that's what worried me the most. I thought at times we looked smaller than especially the English. I didn't think we looked as athletic as the French. So they are bigger worries for me, Mills.
Yeah, I think you can accept not being match fit. That could definitely be a factor because they hadn't played, that many test matches, hadn't toured for so long. But it would be, quite nice to understand what he meant by fitness in that, because you're right, it is a given. It's not hard to, if you're a professional, or, that you should get out there and start running, and try and get yourself fit. I think it's probably open up a few eyes in terms of where they're at. I definitely didn't think that the gap was as big as what it was, but it was nice to see them come back in that last test, a few decisions here and there from the referee. But they've got a long way to go. The difficult part is they haven't got much time because, they're limited in terms of the test matches they will play next year. Super Rugby's coming along, so that's now going to be, the benchmark in terms of getting to that. But they've got to go another level if they want to win the Rugby World Cup. So positive is, they know where they're at, and but the difficult part is, can they get there in this, short amount of time?
I think it's going to take a lot of hard work over the next 3 months and then through Super Rugby Aupiki next year, which is an important stepping stone to the Rugby World Cup, and they'll get plenty of support through next season to prepare for what's an important opportunity for them at home. Well, there's no game next weekend, so it's time for us to be put to the test one last time. JK hopes he never sees a trivia question again. Next season, I'm not 100% sure. Look at him. Our brains will be tested one last time. What is it?
It's not coming back next year, is it? It's not coming back.
Well, we'll see. It could on this. It could decide on this, whether we get it right or wrong. We get it right, it's not back. There you go. Well, anyway, you in particular. Here we go.
G'day guys, it's Will here. I'm the video editor on The Breakdown at Sky. My question for you today is, what happens next? Now, I'll set the scene. It's 1990. The All Blacks were playing Scotland in Carisbrook. Something unique happened. What was it?
Channel back rather slowly. Basham now to Fox. Here is the little chip kick. Now the chase is on.
Kia ora and welcome back to The Breakdown. It is trivia time, so John Kerwin doesn't want it back in 2022. He needs to get this right. Here's the question is, what happens next? And I thought JK was going to make a tackle here. It's unlikely, but JK, you're in the game.
Well, I remember this game because I ate too many free oysters on Thursday, so I was a bit queasy at Captain's Run on Saturday. That day, the Scarfies burnt a couch.
I know that's
on the
unique,
sideline.
but I'm not sure that's in the middle of the game. I'm going to go with, I think what's unique about it, it might have been the one and only time that Grant Fox scored a test try for the All Blacks. That's what I'm thinking. Mills, have you got any? You were 10 years old, so I'm not exactly sure what you're up to.
Field.
Oh, what did?
A dog ran out into the field, I don't know. Gee.
At Carisbrook, that was a given. That was a given.
Oh,
that happened every day. All right, let's run it through from Will Evans.
And the answer is, yes, that's right. Grant Fox regathers his own chip kick to score his first and only test try.
That's brilliant.
Rather slowly. Basham now to Fox. Here is the little chip kick. Now the chase is on. Still loose, and yes! Grant Fox gets his first try in Test Rugby. What a moment for the birthday boy, Grant Fox. It's been a long time in coming, that first try.
Isn't Foxy one of your best mates?
I knew that. I just don't want the thing back for next year.
No, but you had to get it right.
You had to get it right
to not get it back. So
Oh, really? I thought you said the other way round.
No.
I wasn't listening.
Perfect, because I'm
Okay.
going to definitely bring it back. I am definitely.
He looked pretty happy, didn't he?
Definitely
He
bring it
looked pretty happy
back.
about that try.
Well, there were some winners over the weekend, and it was a fantastic weekend for both Taranaki and Waikato as they celebrate wins in both the Premiership and Championship of the Bunnings NPC.
In 2014, Taranaki won the NPC Premiership for the first time. Today, 7 years later, they'll try and lift the Bunnings NPC Championship against Otago. Slater away to Peter Gasol. Here's Taranaki Warden, puts a step on Matt Faddis. Gets the ball off to his number 8. Big fend by Soakula. Potros. He gets it off and Crawford will score. Jason Potros gets the ball away to Taranaki Warden. Now, can this sit up on the holo? It can! And Taranaki, for the first time since 2014, they win the Bunnings NPC Championship.
It is an absolutely gorgeous night in the Waikato, and two teams that totally, in every way, have earned the trip to this decider. Little shove of the ball, and he keeps going, and he's got it away to Regan Ware, sprinting for the corner, and in. Although there's a loose pass, and it's picked up by Phelan Sullivan, and he'll go all the way. Oh, they've done it again. Sullivan's going to get a double, and in their 100th year, Waikato are the champions of New Zealand rugby.
The uncertainty of the Bunnings NPC, of course, no Auckland sides due to the COVID situation, but the other teams just had to get on with it. And you talk about getting on with it, Mills. Taranaki had an impressive season going undefeated. And for me, one of the standout performances was Jason Potros, their first 5. He missed a couple of games, but they played quality rugby, kept the ball alive. They were fun to watch at Inglewood, which is a wonderful, wonderful provincial ground.
Yeah, Stephen Peter-Fitz had a good season as well. So, and you're right. They showed all a bit of razzle-dazzle throughout the whole season, albeit the week before they had South in the semi-final, bit of rain, but thoroughly deserved it because they didn't lose any games. And even their crossover games, you know, they were pretty dominant.
In the frustration, I know, the fact they were hoping to be promoted. We'll talk about that maybe a little bit later on. But in terms of someone coming in, delivering, Neil Barnes, the head coach, coming back from coaching international, coaching with the Chiefs, great to see that level of leadership, but also that team, the way they played the game. Not predictable, with a little bit of innovation, but also for Otago, another good season, bridesmaids once again, but playing the right way. And afternoon footy, JK, you've got to love it.
Got to love afternoon footy. Yeah, happy for Barnesy. Love Barnesy. He's always prepared to tell it how it is. So, yeah, and they played good footy. It was actually really good rugby. That's what I enjoyed. I
am going to find a way for a South and Otago team to win a competition. It was the under-85s, this national under-85 competition, and it was the Carisbrook Bush Pigs. And the beautiful thing about under-85s is that it's great skill set, Mills. They play fast. There's less, I suppose, of that work at the breakdown. It's still physical, but they run, catch, pass. It's fun to watch.
Yeah, it's almost helter-skelter. Look at them too, and it doesn't matter what age you are as well, does it? So you might have a chance next year.
Wine in the cup.
Oh.
They've got a Chardonnay, a little bit of a Sav. I'm glad it didn't buffalo that. I would say this, a good mate of mine was involved with that team, and as I was watching the game, there he is at the end of the bench. There he is, John Leslie. John Leslie, obviously former Otago player, Scottish player. OK, let's move on to Waikato. What an impressive performance. This is a really good game, Mills. Really enjoyed this great contest. What a fantastic try from Tasman. Look, Tasman played great rugby all year. I think 2 worthy finalists.
Yeah, absolutely. And Tasman, you know, they had a road bump, you know, earlier on in the season. They've come back really nicely to make the final, almost sort of make it a 3-peat. Phelan Sullivan, he had a great, great game. 2 tries, picked up on, some lack of skill there as well, but well deserved. 100 years, JK, great way to celebrate it too for Waikato.
Yeah, proud. I was a bit disappointed for Hawke's Bay. I think they'd been the informal all season. but worthy finalists. And once again, another good game. I think we were down early pre-COVID. Mills, you and I watching a game down there, and Waikato were looking a bit shaky, and they certainly turned it round. So great season by them.
Is that pre-COVID, did you say?
Well, I can't remember.
I can't remember pre-COVID. I can't remember pre-COVID. What I can tell you is the fact the number of those players that have been in action over the last few weeks, you will see them in Super Rugby. The Super Rugby teams were announced today, and we've put a show together. Taylor Curtis and Jeff McTainch have got together with some of our other talent on Sky Sport, and you can see that on Facebook and on YouTube. Look at all of the big movings that have happened over the course of this season in preparation for a massive year. Moana Pacifica, part of that announcement as well. It's that time of the year. We're celebrating positions, we're celebrating players, but also plays. It's time now to look at some of the top tries. The competition has started for 2021.
It's been a huge year for footy, and now it's time to have your say with Sky TV Fans Try of the Year. We've picked our top 10, and now it's up to you.
And the All Black chase is coming. Sevu Reece was first there, got it up for Ioane. Reece got it back. Here's Sabia, pops it back for Reece. What a try that is, Sevu Reece.
And now the Chiefs through Simon. He'll centre it up, so skillful and fast. Kennedy Simon and the offload there for Viunu. Langi Viunu's got just one in front of her. The last line of defence is Mali Emerald going to take her off the pace. Langi Viunu backing herself for the corner. Try is there.
Ball swirling around and Barrett's after him, but Mackenzie's too good. And off goes Damien Mackenzie, offloading brilliantly to Tia. Trying to get away, does so from Ledger. He fires it off. Oh boy, this is a try and a half. Brad Weber for the Chiefs. Good, strong carry. Crosby, he's opened him up down the right edge. He's having a great year. Crosby.
They shifted away here and trying to find some space down this left wing through Will Newbold, still alive, him or ball. Here comes Thames Valley. Ben Stevens is going to have too much pace. Absolutely magic try.
Pirinara once again takes it quickly because he senses it's on out left. Here's Ioane stepping back, a lovely ball away to Bridge. Taken by the cover. But here come the All Blacks again. Bowden Barrett runs into a big hole. Riding the tackles and then throws, oh, what a sensational piece of play by Bowden Barrett.
Tasman. Through Powarahisa up the midfield. Got a player on the outside and now looking for some pace and some support. Gets the support. This is a beautiful try. Savila, Tasman chance their arm and they come up trumps.
Havili, nice little shoulder ball. Bending off Nanai Seturo. Floats a beautiful pass out to the wing and bang on.
Hawke's Bay got over it quickly, and Michaeli Tuki got a nice pass away. Here's Veason here, up to Anari. They've got a chance here. Sprinting hard goes Michaeli Tuki. Gets it back to Anari. Oh, boy, that's a try and a half. That started from inside the 22.
So there's the top 10. Go to allblacks.com/Sky Sport to vote, and the winner will be announced 15th of December at the 2021 ASB Rugby Awards.
Make sure you get your votes in. Some great action over the course of the year. It's time for us to celebrate individual performances, team performances of 2021 and our Breakdown Awards. And there's been a lot of debate. And our first one for the night was the Team of the Year. So John Kerwin nominated the Blues more than once, but we decided it wasn't meant to be.
They won! What are you talking about?
You didn't win. You nominated them and we vetoed that. We decided it was the Black Ferns Sevens, Mills, because...
The last Olympics, and it shows on these girls' faces and the effort they put in to to come away with that gold medal so special.
Yeah, totally agree. The Blues did have a good season, but this was very, this was very, very special. Like Mills said, at times I was on the edge of my seat holding my breath because it wasn't easy for them, the semi-final and the final. A lot of hard work, a lot of disappointment from 4 years before, and the way they also carried themselves, you know, worldwide exposure, fantastic interviews, it was just really special.
Next up, and it's one of the hardest jobs I find, is the post-match interview, particularly with some captains from time to time. But our moment of the year was a special one that I had with Brad Weber.
Just a big shout out to my cousin Erin and her lovely girlfriend Natalie. They're getting married today down in Hawke's Bay. I'm sorry I couldn't be there, and thank you for teaching me and a lot of people that love is love, no matter what shape or form it comes, and I hope you've had a great day.
Gotta love that, JK.
Love, mate. That's good. That was brilliant. And it was on the back of quite a lot of controversy, so it took a lot of courage to stand up and make a stand, and awesome. Yeah,
outstanding. Absolutely. Breakout players, and there have been a number of them. We've picked up on a couple, and if you think about the impact that the loose forwards play in the game and the All Blacks continuing looking for guys to step up, Mills, Ethan Blackadder's 2021 season, both for the Crusaders and for the All Blacks, was impressive.
Yeah, he was hard, wasn't he? He came out and sort of went to work, all that sort of stuff that you don't quite see in front of the TV. But he was physical, and that's what I really loved about it. Although he played different positions, 6'7", mixed it up. You know, really good addition in terms of the loosies that are coming through, coming through the ranks, which is outstanding to see.
A lot of young men who got opportunities in 2021 who maybe got them through the course of larger squad sizes and injury, but for someone like Tokiaho, JK, when Dane Coles went down with a calf injury, they needed cover. They got more than cover. They've got a guy who's got a big future in the black jersey.
Yeah, and he sort of came out of nowhere, didn't he, with Waikato? Like, all of a sudden, here's this guy that was performing week in, week out, but he's been exceptional, Mills, at the next level. I just love that second effort. He seems to have that physique, like quite a big version of Kevin Mialamu, hard to tackle, can stay low to the ground, but he made a real impact in a critical moment. You know, that's not easy for a young man to come on a test match like that, but he made a real impact. I think he's got a huge future.
And the way he was brought in for injury cover last minute, you know, in Waikato, he's right. He's always had that part of his game that he's physical. And the one downside, or the thing he needed to work on, was his line-out throwing. And Neil Barnes helped him, through that with Super Rugby, and he's progressed that through to international level. So I'm looking forward to how he kicks on next year in terms of his experience.
Every week after an All Black Test match, we've had the Health Span Elite Performer of the Week, and this season the most consistent player we've seen, you'd have to say, is Ardie Savea in the All Black jersey. Got given the opportunity to be the captain of the All Blacks, JK, and he stood up. Here's a player, whether it be at 7 and 8 in 2021, was just outstanding, a workhorse, and here at the breakdown, he is our player of the year.
Yeah, look, and I think if we started the season not knowing what his position is, I think we finished saying leave him at number 8 and then find the combination around him. Like his second efforts, his support play, his energy all around, and his maturity now under pressure. He stood up in the second half and just started having those runs where he was carrying guys on top of him and getting us over the advantage line, Mills.
He found different ways, in the close stuff and pick and goes where he was very strong. We always know he's got very strong leg drive, but also out wide. His skill set out wide and his ability to set guys up and run some nice holes. But the power of defending and making good choices in defence. So his all-round game was great. And when you look at it from an analysis point of view, how do you analyse that? You nullify one part of his game that's a strength, but he moves on to something else and is really effective. So definitely the player of the year for me.
Lastly, our last award, and we created the Ash Dixon Award last year for Ash Dixon. He doesn't get it, but it's about the player who makes that contribution both on and off the field and carries his team. And we've decided for this year, it's a player who did a couple of days' work for us and decided he wasn't done and dusted, Mills. Liam Messon thought, I'm going to have one more go at one more trophy. He picks up one with Waikato. For me, you need these guys in the game to play as long as you possibly can to bring this sort of leadership.
Oh, to show the way, too, for the young guys. And admittedly, when I first seen him and go back out, I said, what the heck are you doing, you silly kid? But
he's on 99 matches for Waikato. What's the chances he comes back for one more?
Well, he's fit and healthy, and he looks after his body. He eats well and trains hard, so why not?
Yeah, and I just think what he's doing off the field, around the team, great leadership.
Before we go, lastly, what would we like for Christmas if you were talking about rugby for 2022? What is it, JK, you would like to see in or out of the game?
I'd like for the current rugby players and the super franchise sides to realise that the broadcasters and the fans pay their wages. So today the super teams were announced. We would have loved to have done a lot more, but we can't get a player to get an interview with because I don't know why. So that would be my Christmas gift, that the players realise that when you're down and out next year, maybe we might be nice to you, or maybe we won't. So, you know, my Christmas gift is that we get way more fan orientated on what we're doing.
And I'd have to say, for me, it's about the NPC. Becoming one competition, not split, just one. They're talking about it for you, Mills?
For me, a couple of things. I think Pacifica Rugby, Moana Pacifica obviously coming in, and the Dirua, you know, when World Rugby has invested that much money into it, you know, 2.2 million, and invested, structured investment. And I hope it grows given the way that Fiji rugby has gone. And secondly, my second Christmas present would be that we don't ever talk about Silver Lake, that it's done and dusted and all sealed. I don't want to talk about that again next year.
So it's all done in the next couple of months. JK shaking head, he's not so sure. I'll tell you what, it's been a long season. We understand that it's been a long season for you at home and for the players as well. But for me, on behalf of everyone here, thank you very much for watching. I've got to put a big thank you out, though, for everyone that's been involved with the show. Obviously, we've had Bernie, we've had Hannah, we've had so many people, Chelsea, obviously Mills, Sir John Kerwin. Marshy's been here from time to time. An outstanding camera crew. Our soundies out the back. We've got everyone in the control room. But Marcus Hilliard, there they are. He knew he couldn't wait to get himself in there. This is not The Crowd Goes Wild. Back you go. Back you go. Everyone in the control room, Marcus and Jim, who put this show together. It's been a fantastic 2021. We cannot wait. Well, we can. We're looking forward to some Freedom First here in Auckland, and we will see you for a new season in 2022.